there! Today we're talking about explicit and implied ideas. Let's start with what you already know. Every story has important ideas that the author wants the reader to understand. But of course you already get that. You've been reading stories for years. Now, let's look at what you need to know. Authors have two ways of presenting ideas, by stating them explicitly and by implying them. When an author presents ideas explicitly, she says exactly what she wants you to know. For instance, think about these sentences. Jordan looked out the window as the plane raced down the runway. She loved flying. What's going on in these sentences? It's pretty obvious, right? The author tells us that Jordan loves flying. This idea is explicit. Now, look at the same idea a little differently. Jordan felt the pavement give way as the giant machine roared into the air. Her heart skipped a beat with excitement. She looked out the window, amazed as the world became a miniature village below her. This is an example of an implied idea. Implied ideas are presented through clues like details and examples, and it's your job to figure them out. It looks like these guys are ready to look for clues. Let's look at some quotes from the passage again. This time we see, Jordan felt the pavement give way. The giant machine roared into the air. Her heart skipped a beat with excitement. She was amazed as the world became a miniature village below her. This is an example of implied meaning. All of these details add up to the idea that Jordan loves flying. Now, let's read a story that has both explicit and implied ideas. Stage fright. Alex was nervous. His palms were sweating, his knees felt weak, and he had to squint to see through the blinding stage lights. He looked out into the audience, searching for a friendly face, but all he could see was a sea of black figures. He wondered if his mother had made it. He knew her work was important, but she had promised she would be there. Alex listened as the first two performers completed their pieces, and the audience members showed their appreciation. Thunderous applause rang through the auditorium as Alex waited nervously for his turn. Finally, the announcer called his name, and Alex made his way across the stage. He sat on the narrow bench and concentrated on the black and white keys in front of him. Suddenly, a woman's voice rang out through the auditorium. "Go for it, Alex! You own this stage!" A giant grin spread across Alex's face as he lifted his hands to the keyboard and began to play. I think Alex is going to do great! Okay, now let's look at some of the ideas in the story. Here on the right is our story. And here on the left, we'll take a look at the story ideas. Let's start by looking at one explicit idea. The author tells us that Alex was nervous. These details prove this idea. His palms were sweating, his knees felt weak, and he had to squint to see through the blinding stage lights. So we know how Alex is feeling and what he is doing. Now, let's look at an implied idea. Look at this paragraph. What's going on in this scene? Let's look closely at the text. Here are some clues to help us figure it out. He sat on the narrow bench. Black and white keys in front of him. Woman's voice and "Go for it, Alex." In this section, the implied ideas are very important. The narrow bench and black and white keys tell us that Alex is at a piano. We already know he's waiting for his mom, so the woman telling Alex to go for it is probably his mother. Great work! You deserve a hand. Today you learned about understanding explicit and implied ideas in a story. The author gives an explicit idea when he or she says exactly what she wants you to know. The author presents an implied idea through details and examples. Use quotations from the text when you are explaining the explicit and implied ideas you find. Great work today. Now grab a story and find some meaning. If you want to see this again, replay this. If not, I'll see you later.